The Tower card. So whenever the Tower comes up, think disaster, destruction, there's upheaval, something traumatic, sudden change, chaos. And I always look at it like there is illusions that are coming up and being put out of my way. So the Tower shows me what illusions are in play and what energies those are that are destructive. So the Tower represents a man-made tower. And if you take a look at the card, lightning strikes this man-made tower. And there's two individuals that fall from its heights. And the tower is crowned with glittering illusions that the man and the woman encase themselves in, a narrow structure of egotistical beliefs and superiority. The wrath of God is attributed to Mars in astrology, and he has struck the symbol of materialism, the materialistic delusion, bringing truth, reality, and enlightenment in its awakened form. So the Tower actually represents a creative life force. And if you take a look at the rains that are there, the yellow rain, that represents the yawns. It's a symbolic pattern. And this pattern brings new life energy, and it's washing away all the old forms. So this is the Truth and Enlightenment card that brings awakening and a new perspective, often at the expense of the seeker's delusions. So if there is something hidden to face, this card brings it up. And spiritually, this major arcana is actually very welcome because it represents a seeker with new insight and understanding concerning an aspect of personality or personal philosophical programming that has kept them isolated and unable to fully know their God or their connection to the universe. So the number one of the conscious mind has experienced the influx of an awakening on a spiritual level. And remember, the one is the magician. And it refers to the working of the formula from the Lover's card, the major arcana 6. And this forms the number 16. So if you take a look at the black background in the Tower, it's very similar to the previous card, the Devil card. However, the darkness has now been blessed with the addition of light, a symbol of divine power that is enlightened consciousness and spiritual truth. So the imagery could be like the Tower of Babel, a physical outer structure that's built high enough to reach heaven. And that's when God frowned upon this and ordered mankind to speak in various languages because inner spiritual growth had been confused with external, rational, and materialistic ways. And that story of Babel has actually been a similar story through many different cultures. In ours, in my Native American culture, it was chiefs that became materialistic and they got cast into stone to teach people a lesson. This is also the mother lightning goddess, Tianmu, in Chinese mythology, and the Pawnee lightning god who explored and enlightened the tribe about Earth. The Tower is the power of the Roman god Mars, who symbolizes fertility and creation, and so does lightning. Mars also is the god of battles and war. And that is actually another title that the Tower card represents in some other cards out there. But the Tower is the enlightening and the awakening that occurs in every person when they're discovering the truths of their connection or the truths of the universe or even God or Goddess. It represents a fertile foundation that's ready to grow for personal spiritual growth, and a path has now been laid. So whenever you see black cards in a reading, and then it simply means mystery, the unknowable, the dark, right? The eyes in the dark. And in traditional decks, there's a very few cards that have black, right? Except for Death and the Devil. And in other decks, a black starry sky indicates this power, the greater cosmos, the universe, and the movement of the planets in relation to how they affect us here on Earth, similar to the change in the Wheel of Fortune. So whenever the Tower shows up in a reading, it represents the truth. The truth surfaces, and it's an awakening that is taking place. The universe is like, here's the truth. Now let's get rid of this illusion. And the Tower card is difficult if the seeker is not facing something. So if they're not facing it, it's going to get more and more chaotic. And so this is actually how I learned how to deal with chaos, is through this card. So I don't let chaos happen unless it's unexpected, and I take care of it and I deal with it as quickly as I can. So this is the truth and honesty card. So you are not facing something, or the seeker is not facing something. And in this case, it comes back as a shock. It's out of the blue. It's casting them out. And the situation will be seen for what it is. So there is selfish and manipulative tendencies that are going to be exposed in a situation, whether that's a situation that the seeker has created or is facing. You'll want to take a look at the other cards around it. But the Tower card can be a positive card if the seeker desires fuller self-knowledge for these circumstances, because they're bringing revelations and motivation and character. And that can be very enlightening. What character are you dealing with? And if the reading concerns health, this usually represents breakdowns through nerves or illness. So it shows a decline in their health. And often this breakdown or change pertains to a routine or a structure that involves the seeker's employment. Or maybe it has to do with their home or their family or their marriage or psychological programming or any arrangement where the format can be altered. And when this card comes up in a reading and it represents relationship, then it represents, think about the sudden upheaval. There's some kind of broken pride, okay? There's chaos in the relationship, and that could lead to a breakup. It also is an indicator that the relationship is weak and that it is moving into the place of an ending. It also represents a foundational shift in the view of love. So something has changed with how they view the relationship and the foundation of it. And upright, when the Tower comes up in a career reading, then it means a sudden change in job, maybe a sudden loss of job. It could also represent workplace disruption or workplace chaos. And when it comes up in a financial reading, then there's financial loss. This is a wake-up call regarding finances. So this represents fundamental changes and changes that cannot, like is a destiny card. So these are inevitable and bound to happen because of the energy that created it. So we want to make sure that when the Tower comes up, we're just careful about what we say. We don't want to hurt anyone. When it comes up into our relationship, we know that it isn't a nearing place. We need to take a chance and say, hey, is this a relationship I value and I want to fix? Or am I just going to let the damage happen and the misunderstanding take place? So no old ways are useful. The old ways are no longer useful, and you have to find a new set of beliefs and values. So replace something that is false.